What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode 2 of The Dorks Next Door. I am your host, Andy York. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining us for each and every episode. We hope that you have thoroughly enjoyed our very first episode back as a podcast in a little over a year. Thank you to everybody that has checked that out and liked it and shared it and all that fun stuff. Go back and check that episode out after you finished watching this one, because the two kind of tie in together and correlate together. So it's going to be a lot of fun to go back and forth and bounce back and forth between those two. But once again, thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening to us each and every week, where you can find our podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, Google Play, Anchor, Stitcher. Basically anywhere you can find your podcast, you can find us as well. And go subscribe to our YouTube channel, dorksnextdoor.com. Make sure that you, not dorksnextdoor.com, but youtube.com/dorksnextdoor. There we go. Like, share, subscribe, do all that fun stuff with that as well. As always, I cannot do this podcast alone because I am not as in-depth or as knowledgeable as my co-host always is. But always joining me is Mr. Jason. Jason, man, how you doing?
I'm all right. I think we got to get a claim on dorksnextdoor.com.
I think we do.
I think that we have to jump on that.
I think we do. I think
I'm sure
started
it's already taken.
Well, I think I started one, so I think I do have the claim for dorksnextdoor.com.
Really?
So I think we're good.
Go.
I think we're good with that. So we may. Who knows?
Ahead of me.
We may build that back up at some point and do a little writing on the side. But we got to take this thing one step at a time. But yeah, so we are excited to jump into this episode. If you missed our first episode, like I said, definitely go check that out, as we recapped and reviewed basically everything that came out in 2021 from the MCU. So we talked all things Disney Plus. We talked about the movies. We kind of covered some of the things we're going to talk about today. But definitely go check that out and give us your thoughts about everything that came out last year. But in this episode, we are actually going to be previewing the things that are supposed to come out in 2022. And yes, I said supposed to come out because there have already been some delays to some of these projects that we are going to be talking about. So if these specific ones don't come out this year, don't hold that against us, because we'll just cover it again next year and talk about it again next year, because we can never run out of things to talk about when it comes to the MCU. So we're going to dive right into the ones that we have confirmed dates for and that we know for sure are coming out or more than likely coming out. And then after that, we will kind of talk about some of the rumored ones and talk about those. And at the end, I may throw in a couple of the Sony projects too, just to kind of get Jason's blood pressure raised up a little bit. One I'm sure he'll love. One I'm sure he will, he might explode on our screen, which is good for views. So we'll talk about that when we get there. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the very first MCU project of 2022, coming out March 30th. We just recently got the trailer for it, and that is Moon Knight. Now, that's a character that you and I both have been talking about and wanting to see in some capacity since I believe we started the podcast in like 2018, 2019. We've been talking about this for a while. It's finally come true. I think Disney Plus is the perfect outlet for someone like Moon Knight to kind of jump into his world and see his character. It's going to be I think different than any other Disney Plus show that we've seen. I think it's going to be a darker version of an MCU character maybe than we've ever seen before, because the guy's got a lot of issues, and we'll talk about that and kind of jump into that. But what are you expecting from the Moon Knight series, and kind of, also a reaction to the trailer and things that we just recently saw for Moon Knight?
Yeah, it's interesting because Moon Knight, in the current crop of Marvel heroes and in the ones that we've been, on the journey with for a long time, Iron Man, Captain America, he seems really out of place. In a way, to get his own Disney Plus show, he seems a lot more in line with the characters that we got on Netflix. And so I think that was kind of the place where that was the place where people started to kind of focus on this character and be like, this is a character that fits in really well with this certain set of characters, Daredevil, Punisher, like kind of the street level,
right,
beat 'em up, maybe a little bit darker, a little bit edgier sort of characters. But he fits in really well with those sorts of characters. And it's interesting now that he is, they said that this character is going to continue on outside of this show and be in other things and movies and stuff like that. So I'm interested to see where he's going to pop up again. But yeah, this has been one that we've been anticipating for a super long time because we love this character.
Yeah.
And he is one of probably the biggest Marvel characters that's never been put to screen in live action in like any capacity.
Right.
And so the casting of Oscar Isaac, I think, is super exciting.
Yeah.
He's just spot on. You can tell already in the trailer that he's having a lot of fun with it. And then Ethan Hawke is really interesting as well as kind of the co-lead villain, because I remember that he is not a superhero movie guy, which makes sense for an actor of his caliber.
Right.
Most of them are not, but he said that the quote, I guess I'm going to misquote probably, but paraphrasing, he was like, "This is where I feel like I'm at in my career right now." So, take what you can get.
Yeah. Who knows if that's a compliment or a dig at himself? But yeah, I love the fact that he's coming in, and I love the fact that they are. I forget the villain's name because it is a very obscure Moon Knight villain. I believe he was only created in like 2012. Is what I think I've heard. Right. So basically, they have free reign with this character to kind of do whatever they want with this villain, which I think is very exciting. To see that. For those that don't know and couldn't really tell what was going on in the trailer, because my wife is since we got married, I've said this on the podcast before, but before we got married, I told her she had to watch every Marvel movie, MCU movie, and if she didn't like it after that, then I was like, that's fine. At least you sat down and watched it. And we got to the first Avengers movie, and she looked at me and she's like, okay, I'm hooked. So she's like on board now with all the MCU stuff, but she has no idea, who Moon Knight is or kind of what who he is. And the best way I could kind of describe who Moon Knight is he is a guy with, I believe in the comic, I think it's schizophrenia is what they have him as in the comic, or multiple personality disorder, or
they have mislabeled it as schizophrenia in the past, but it is multiple personality disorder.
Yeah, and he is, I forget all three exactly, but one is like a boring British guy. One is I believe like a mercenary is one. And then obviously the third one is the Moon Knight vigilante hero character. And he bounces kind of all between those three different personalities, which I love how they kind of depicted that in the trailer of just being one person, but also kind of seeing the snapshots of all the other people. I think if we got three different trailers from three different perspectives of this one guy playing three different parts, I think that would be absolutely amazing to see that.
That would be cool. Yeah, I'd love to see how perspective plays into it.
Yeah.
That's a cool idea. So actually, he has 4 different personalities, and I can go over them because I'm a dork, and that's what I'm here to do. So he's got the Moon Knight personality. He's got the mercenary, which is his main self, Mark Spector, which he was all of his life. And then Jake Lockley, who is this taxi cab driver, where he gets like information from the street. He gets information from the street. And then Stephen Grant, who's the boring British guy. He's the
boring British guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like
a
the
museum
businessman.
Yeah. I think in the trailer though, he's working in the museum where what is the name of the guy that gives him Moon Knight powers, basically?
Khonshu.
Yeah. He's working in that museum. So I'm really interested to see how all of that kind of plays out.
Yeah, me too.
What's also really interesting, and you kind of brought it up already as well, is the fact that we already know that this isn't just kind of a one-off, that he's going to show up in multiple other projects or multiple other movies and shows. I think if all the other Disney Plus shows are any indication, I think we're going to see a couple of people show up in his show as well. I would not be shocked if Blade did not show up, if Mahershala Ali's first appearance as Blade did not show up in Moon Knight.
That would be crazy.
I think that would be crazy. I also would not be shocked if Charlie Cox's Daredevil didn't show up in Moon Knight as well. Because I think we are definitely heading to, I believe you can, I think you'll know more than I will about this, but I think we are definitely heading towards a Midnight Suns. I think that's what they're called.
Hmm.
The group where it's kind of like all the
All the
Punisher
anti
and Moon
characters.
Knight and all these kind of characters are kind of in a Avenger style team.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be shocked if we saw that. Yep,
Ghost Rider, Doctor Strange has been a part of that before,
yep.
so
And I think
that
it'd be
that
really
makes a lot of sense.
interesting. I think it'd be really interesting because this comes out before Doctor Strange. I think it would be really interesting
Yeah,
is after this show comes out, maybe a post credit scene in Doctor Strange 2 is whatever threats are still around or supernatural things are still around, because we also know we're getting a Marvel Zombies, and we don't know if that's animated yet or not, or kind of all these other stuff. I would love it if Doctor Strange kind of came to Mark Spector and was like, did the whole Nick Fury, I'm putting together a team to go kind of take care of these threats that are still out there. And you could have Moon Knight and Blade and Daredevil,
yeah,
and I think Ghost Rider you could bring in. I think that would be really interesting to kind of take that as a darker, grittier version that some people, that's a more appealing thing in superhero movies to some people, is the darker, grittier version. And definitely you could throw that on Disney Plus and let it be what it kind of is in its own property.
right. And also, if that were to happen, like that's like the coolest. That's such a cool idea. So if that were to happen, the nature of that team would be very different than a team like
Yep.
the Avengers. And Doctor Strange as a leader, the nature of him as a leader would be very different
Yep.
than Nick Fury. So
Yep.
that would be super cool if something like that happened and he had to put together, because it seems like obviously this isn't all leading towards an Avengers 5 or anything like that. It seems
Right.
like we have different splintered teams. So we still have some Avengers left. Um we still have Spider-Man who's on
Mm-hmm.
his own now. We still have the Guardians with
So
Thor,
of the Hulk,
but
who's kind of with She-Hulk, and
right.
you
Yeah, but
know,
Doctor Strange is kind of on his own, so I think that it would be cool for him to and the Fantastic Four, which we're gonna get to
yep,
eventually, but
yep,
Doctor Strange and his, like, crew of stragglers building towards Midnight Suns, that would be awesome. I would
that
love
would be
that.
really cool. I would love to see that kind of come in, because I mean, then that kind of opens up a wide range of new Marvel characters that they could kind of
Right.
introduce and bring. Which who would have thought before, really before Infinity War, like we were talking about, like there's no way that we're ever going to see a Moon Knight show. Probably there's no way we're ever going to
Yeah.
see, you know, a She-Hulk show, or there's no way we're ever going to see the frog version of Thor. And like in
Right.
this year and like the last year, we have seen all of this and we're getting more. So I don't think anything is off the table
Yeah.
at this point. So I think this is a really cool way to kind of introduce a lot of these new characters, is by kind of having them be the ragtag team that is taking care of the supernatural villains that are on the earth and on our world, kind of going through there. And I think you could even from time to time put Scarlet Witch in there, like let Scarlet Witch kind of go in there as well. And she
Right.
could be, maybe that's like her reform after what she did in Westview, is like going in and leading this team to take care of these threats and take care of these problems. Something like that would be kind of cool to see that as well.
That would be amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would love that.
Well, speaking of
And, we
okay.
all of our Marvel speculation basically turns out to be true, so we're just going to
Yeah,
say
absolutely.
75% chance, definitely happening.
Absolutely. Mephisto
Just
is definitely in
slap a sticker.
WandaVision.
Exactly. Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
yeah, definitely, definitely. All right. So speaking of Doctor Strange, we know his movie for sure is coming out in May. I don't
Mhm,
remember the exact date. I think it's been announced, but I don't remember exactly when. I think it's like early May. Is when we're getting Doctor Strange 2 Multiverse of Madness. Um, this movie is has a lot of hype around it, especially after Spider-Man No Way Home. This movie has a lot of hype around it.
mhm.
And still I don't know exactly what to expect from this movie and kind of going forward from this movie. So what do you see taking place in this movie? Kind of, you know, what are your expectations, I guess, when it comes to Doctor Strange 2?
I think that my favorite thing about Doctor Strange 2 is that Sam Raimi is directing it. I think that's such a cool choice, to bring him back, and with the movies that he's done in the past being so good, Um, I'm just like thrilled to what he can bring to this character and to what he can bring to Marvel. I like the fact that they kind of went into this movie with the idea that it's going to be more of like a horror themed film, because that's
Yep.
something that we've never even like attempted before. And so for it to have that aspect, and also for it to be like crazy Doctor Strange sort of cosmic sort of things, which are inherently cool, but then also to
Right.
have the horror element sounds
Yep.
awesome.
Yep.
And so the glimpses of that we got in the trailer were super cool. But I think that also just a lot of the setting and a lot of the staging looked really interesting as well. A lot of the
Mhm.
backgrounds, a lot of the colors, and those sorts of things were really, really sweet. I can't wait to see more of that.
I know. I loved everything about the kind of the trailer itself, but also kind of what it was. It seemed like it was setting up what it was kind of heading towards. Um,
Yeah.
one of the reasons why I think I'm very excited to see this movie is I'm really excited to see Scarlet Witch post WandaVision. That's been
Yeah.
like something that I've been dying to see since WandaVision kind of ended. Is what is going on with Wanda now? Because obviously, post credit scene in WandaVision, she is in the astral form, going through the Darkhold, learning things from the Darkhold, while also searching for her two kids. She heard her two kids. Will they appear in this movie? More than likely. Will she be the
Mhm.
main villain of this movie? Who knows if she will be the main villain of this movie or
Let's
not?
hope
Like,
not. She has been through enough.
I know, I know. I feel
I'm
so
putting
bad
my
for
foot
her.
down.
I think I heard somebody else say this, and I completely agree. More than Spider-Man 2, I think I want Wanda to have a very happy ending in the MCU because she
Yeah,
more than deserves it at this point. Because they have put her through so much over the last since she first appeared in Age of Ultron. They have put her
right.
through so much torture that she needs to have a good moment and a happy win at some point.
It's true.
I feel bad for her, but yeah, I'm
Yeah.
really excited to see what she like. I'm really excited to see what she is doing post WandaVision and kind of how Doctor Strange. I'm really curious to see what Doctor Strange's view is, or what he really knew about WandaVision, like the things that took place in WandaVision. I wonder if that'll be addressed. I think it may have been confirmed by the writers of WandaVision, but all of the commercials that took place in WandaVision were Doctor Strange trying to intervene and get through Wanda or get to Wanda through the commercials of her own like sitcom TV shows. So I think that would be
Wow.
really cool to see that kind of conversation take place. If that really is the case, and if that really is something that they were intending for it to be when they were writing it.
Yeah, that is super interesting. Um, so a character that is in this movie that looks like they have a really prominent role that I don't know hardly anything about, honestly, is America Chavez.
Yeah.
And I know that she can open star-shaped interdimensional portals, which I feel like is going to be a pretty integral ability to have
Absolutely. Yeah.
uh, in this film. And you can, in the trailer, I didn't notice it on the first watch, but you can see that one of the portals that he falls into is star-shaped, and I think the effect of that is
Uh,
very cool. So, and she's in the background of one of a couple other shots, actually.
yeah.
So I'm interested to see what her role is. I think it's a cool place to introduce her, and I don't know a whole lot about her, so I'm looking forward to learning about her ability, which I think is pretty sweet. And I
Yeah.
think that'll be very important to what is
I
happening.
completely agree. I completely agree. One other thing I wanted to kind of bring up about Doctor Strange, and I don't know if you've seen this or not, but if I forget what shot it was exactly in the trailer, but if you stop it, you can see this orange looking door behind Doctor Strange that
Hmm.
looks very similar to the TVA door.
Hmm.
So I'm wondering if maybe the TVA will make an appearance in this show, a movie. Maybe we get Sylvie or Loki. I highly doubt we get one of those two, but I mean that would be pretty interesting. Maybe we get King in this. Like I honestly I have no idea what to expect, or who kind of could show up. Do you think we'll get any uh Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire-esque cameos in this film?
I don't think so, because I don't really think that this movie is building to something like that in the way that like the Spider-Man trilogy was building to
Right.
those cameos, sort of. So they felt a little more organic there. I wouldn't be surprised if we see like returning characters that we don't expect or something like that in cameos just because of like the nature of dimensional travel and stuff like that.
Right.
But I don't think that that's going to be a big selling point or a big crux of the movie
Hmm.
is unexpected cameos.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I wouldn't
I
be
think
surprised by it though.
I think the only ones that we could see is maybe we could see like Professor X or maybe Magneto from the Fox franchise. I think that might be a real possibility. Um, this may be where Deadpool gets introduced as well. Just kind of have him
I would not
get
be
thrown in.
surprised.
I would not be
Yeah.
shocked if that happened. I wouldn't be shocked if we kind of got some early indications of the Fantastic Four from this movie
Mm,
as well. Like that would not surprise me to kind of see um them, or just kind of like a very subtle clue that the Fantastic Four are on their way. Like, like be on the lookout for the Fantastic Four. I think that would be really interesting and really cool to see something like
yeah.
that. I think we might get. I don't expect it, but I wouldn't be completely shocked if we got a Patrick Stewart or a Ian. What's his name?
Ian McKellen.
Uh, yeah, Ian McKellen. That those two would not shock me if they kind of showed up. Uh,
Mhm.
some reports or some rumors are saying that Tobey Maguire may show up as Spider-Man in this movie again. I don't think that will happen because it took like 10 years to get him to come back for one for one movie. I don't think he's going to do
Yeah.
two movies back to back for the MCU.
I
I
think
mean,
that people are saying that just because of Sam Raimi, honestly.
yeah, yeah, and I don't think that's going to happen with this as well. So I don't really know. I think though Doctor Strange 2 is where we get our House of M moment just kind of flipped of
Yeah.
Wanda, because in House of M she says no more mutants. The X-Men like mutant powers kind of go away. I think this time she may be like more mutants, and then, that's how we get the X-Men, or that's how we get, something else like that. I think that would be really cool to see, and really like a simple way, but like a really awesome way to have the X-Men or to have the mutant gene introduced into the MCU.
Right. If you are just a civilian in the MCU, you have to constantly be on the lookout
Yep.
for things that are happening in magic that just alter the entirety of reality. If that happens, because that would be
Right.
something that, like, alters, like, life on Earth again just for
Yep.
everybody
Yep.
instantly. So, I think that would be amazing. I think that'd be a really cool kind of big thing to happen in this movie. Obviously, that would have gigantic, consequences for the future, and it would be extremely hype. And also, that I think is the best character because there's the question of how are the X-Men going to get transplanted
Hmm.
into the Marvel universe? And it's like you can't really say like, oh, they were there the whole time,
Right.
at this point because we just know so much about how this world works. So I think that that is the perfect character, being historically a mutant, but having also been a long-standing member of the Marvel universe. I think that's the perfect character to use, and also she has
Yep.
the power to do that.
Yep.
So I think
Absolutely.
that just makes a lot of sense.
Yep. I think she is the perfect gateway to bring in. Plus, this way they can kind of cherry pick who they want from the Fox franchise to come play those characters, and who they don't want returning to play those characters as well. So
Right.
that I think that's kind of a great way to introduce the X-Men their way, the MCU way, in a different way than we kind of ever seen before, and kind of putting their own twist and their own flair to it as well. I think that's really really cool. Um,
Yeah.
all right, so moving on to the next movie that has been confirmed for July of this year, and that is Thor 4. Thor is the first MCU character to have four movies. Um, Captain America will technically have 4 movies, but he's the only one with 4 movies that he is the star in. The same guy playing the same version or the same character in all 4 movies. This movie, I honestly don't know what to expect. Taika Waititi is obviously directing it again, which thank God for Taika Waititi, because Thor Ragnarok was by far the best Thor movie that there has ever been and might ever be. So it's going to be kind of hard to beat that with this one. But there's a lot of returning characters for this, a lot of returning characters we haven't seen. We are getting some pretty weird villains in this movie as well that are going to be just crazy to watch and a lot of fun to watch as well. So, what do you think? What are your expectations, or what do you think might happen with Thor: Love and Thunder?
This is my number one most anticipated movie of this year. Like, I'm so excited to see what the continuation of Ragnarok is, and from what it sounds like, this is going to be like even crazier than Ragnarok in a lot of ways, because they know how well Ragnarok worked, and so they're like, yeah, we can do more of that now. Um, I'm excited. I'm really excited to see the Guardians of the Galaxy again, because those are some of my favorite characters
Yeah,
in Marvel. And then I think that they can make Jane Foster return in a really meaningful and a really cool way,
yeah,
which is awesome. And again, another thing that I would not have thought before, like Infinity War or
exactly,
something, is like, huh, when are they going
exactly.
to bring Jane Foster back? I really miss that character so much. um, but also the fact that they got Christian Bale to show up in a Marvel movie is
I know,
hilarious and
and to play
awesome.
somebody like Gore the God Butcher
Oh my God, for
is such a weird
sure.
thing for him to play someone like that.
Yeah,
But they're the same. They're the same group that got Jeff Goldblum to come in, and so I mean,
right. They
at
just
this
do it to
point, they can make
everyone.
anything happen. They can make anything
Right.
happen at this point.
I'm really excited to see more of Valkyrie too,
Hmm.
because that's one of my favorite characters as well. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I am very
I
excited
mean,
for this.
I just think this movie is gonna be ridiculously fun and super funny, and
Yeah,
so I just can't wait for it.
I think this is going to be one of those movies where if you hated Thor Ragnarok, I think you're really going to hate this movie,
Yeah.
because I think it's going to go bigger and more grander than Thor Ragnarok. Thor Ragnarok is probably one of my top 5 favorite MCU movies, so I'm expecting a whole lot from this. I think it's going to be, like you said, crazy and a lot of fun.
Right.
Taika Waititi is a madman, kind of like James Gunn. They're both the weirdest guys, but geniuses when it comes to dealing with characters like Thor and like with the Guardians.
Hmm.
But yeah, like you said, I'm really excited to see the Guardians in this movie. I'm really excited to see kind of Thor. I hope we still have Dad Bod Thor in this movie, at least for a version of it, for a part of it. I hope we still have that version of Thor. Um,
Hmm.
I'm excited to see what they're going to do with Jane Foster, like that, and that's something like you said. I was not expecting to say that pre Infinity War. Like I thought Natalie
Yeah.
Portman was done with the character, and they brought her back, and they kind of are going to do this thing. Don't I mean storyline wise in the comics, how Lady Thor or not Lady Thor, Mighty Thor, um, how she gets her powers is she comes down with cancer, and then
Right.
I think Thor. I don't remember exactly how it is, but basically she comes down with cancer, and then through the power of Asgardian magic and then Mjolnir, I think as well, and some other things, she becomes Mighty Thor, and so it's going to be weird. It's going to be a lot of fun. Like I said, Gore the God Butcher is going to be. Uh, I don't know what he's going to be. I really have no idea
He's
what
gonna
to
be in
expect
this
from that.
movie.
He is. He is.
That's for sure.
I'm honestly going to be very disappointed if we don't see a live action Beta Ray Bill in this movie as well. Um,
Yeah.
just because that has to happen at some point. And also, I would not be shocked if maybe this is where we get the introduction of Adam Warlock in the MCU. I think that would
Hmm.
be kind of a great transition from Thor: Love and Thunder into Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3,
Hmm.
um, which I'm sure a lot of people forgot that. Oh yeah, they introduced or they mentioned Adam Warlock basically at the end of Guardians Volume 2, because it seems like it's been 10 years since we've seen Guardians 2. And so I'm really excited to see the introduction of that, and I'm sure it's going to lead right into the third Guardians movie, which I'm sure will be a roller coaster in itself.
Exactly. Yeah, and I just remembered, and I'm sure you already know this, but they have cast Adam Warlock for Guardians Volume 3.
Yes, but I forget who.
Yeah. Will Poulter, who I remember from Chronicles of Narnia. And I cannot remember what his character's name is because I don't remember very much from those movies.
Uh,
However,
is he the one that plays
mm,
um
oh, Eustace.
oh
There we go.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he was in like the Maze Runner or one of those like
That's
young
correct.
adult uh
That is
young adult
correct.
fiction novel
Yeah.
movies. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that's a weird casting, but I mean,
yes, it is.
at this
Very
point the
weird.
MCU has done nothing to make me think that their casting is going to be bad. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
at this point they've brought in um what's his name to play Star Fox.
Oh, Harry Styles.
Harry
Yeah.
Styles. They brought in Harry Styles to play an MCU character, and it worked. So
Yeah.
at this point, I have no quarrels with who they picked to play whoever. So good for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like you said, I'm really excited for this movie. Um, and I don't know what to expect, but I think it's going to be a wild ride and a lot of fun to kind of go through and see what they're going to do with Thor after this, and where this kind of leads into the future of the MCU. This is actually the first time since Endgame that we're going outside of Earth again, other than the Eternals, but the Eternals was still basically based on Earth itself for most of it.
Right.
So I think this is the first time
Yeah.
post Endgame that we are actually going outside of Earth into space to kind of see maybe we see the effects of the re-snap again on like from the outside of Earth, which I think has been one of my favorite aspects of the Disney Plus shows is seeing the effects of the snap on Earth, both Thanos' snap and then Hulk snap. So I'm really curious to see what that kind of is like also outside of Earth and in some of these other planets and stuff that we've seen and we've been to in the MCU.
Yes. That would be awesome. I'd love to see that. Definitely.
All right. So the last movie, there's actually only 3 movies coming out this year, which seems like a disappointment. But then I also remember that we have Disney Plus shows that are coming out as well, so it kind of evens
Right.
itself out. But the one that honestly I have no idea what is going to take place in this movie. I have no idea what is going to happen, and that is Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. It's supposed to come out in November of this year. Obviously, with the tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman, the role of Black Panther is up in the air. Personally, I don't think there should be any recasting done at all. I think I think it should be dealt with in the world itself without recasting. Because I think to me it's going to be almost impossible to replace what Chadwick Boseman brought to T'Challa and to Black Panther on screen. So I don't see how they would be able to recast, and because it's not the same as an Edward Norton situation. It's just a tragic event that took place and happened, and I don't really know what they're gonna do with that character from now on. But honestly, I don't know anything about this movie. I haven't heard a whole lot about this movie, so I honestly don't know what to expect. Kind of, what do you think is going to take place in Wakanda Forever? What do you think is going to be the driving force behind this movie?
Yeah, with a title like Wakanda Forever, I think it's going to be a movie that is more focused on Wakanda. And that's kind of what the first Black Panther movie was
Right,
more of a movie about Wakanda. Not as, we already got introduced to the character and there wasn't a whole lot for um Black Panther in his own movie. It was more of we're going to flesh out the world that he lives in. And so I
right,
expect to see a lot more of that. I don't really know if they introduce a whole lot of new characters in this movie because they already have a really good set of supporting characters
yeah,
that were in the first Black Panther movie. Um, which I think that out of like all the different franchises, I think Black Panther had one of the strongest casts of supporting characters, and they've shown up in like Infinity War and Endgame and all these crossovers and things
Right.
like that. So I'm thinking that they take it more in sort of a generalized direction. I would not be surprised if Shuri is the central character, because of course you still do need a central character.
Right.
But yeah, I'm definitely interested by it. I like the fact that there is a lot of mystery behind it, and we really don't have like any clue apart from like the title about what this movie is about or where it's
Right.
going. And I think that's
Yeah.
a good thing because a lot of the times, especially in our line of work, we end up knowing a whole lot about these movies before they come out. So
Right. Right.
yeah, I'm hoping it still remains sort of shrouded in mystery, at least a little bit until it
Yeah.
comes out.
I completely agree. I think Shuri more than likely will be the main focus of this film. Um,
Hmm.
I would not be opposed if Okoye was the main focus of this film either. I think
Right.
she might be my favorite or one of my favorite characters from Black Panther. So that I think that would be
Hmm.
really cool. One sort of rumor I've heard that has not been confirmed and not even been. I don't know who started it or where it came from, so take it with a grain of salt. But they said that there could be a possibility of introducing T'Challa's son in this film.
Wow.
Um, so I don't know what all that entails, and I don't know kind of what would happen or what would take place with that. So that's something that could be a possibility, but I don't see that likely happening. At least in this one. But I completely agree. I think this is going to be a Wakanda based movie that is also a celebration of T'Challa in this movie as
Mhm.
well. And I think that's going to be Ryan Coogler obviously knocked it out of the park with the first Black Panther movie, and I'm not expecting anything less from this movie, even with all the circumstances and all the delays and everything else that they've kind of faced. I'm not expecting anything less. So, you know, I like you said, I like the fact that we don't know what to expect. I like the fact
Right.
that we don't know what is going to happen, or really who the main villain kind of is. Fingers crossed that it's Namor, but I mean, who knows?
Yeah,
Um,
that'd be great.
that would be great. But honestly, I have no idea what to expect. And like you said, it's kind of cool that at this point in time we know more about Ant-Man 3 than we do about Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. And I think that's really
Right.
cool and really interesting about this film.
I'm hoping for an increased role for M'Baku as well. I really like his character.
Yeah,
So
I do too.
that'd be great. I mean, I think that so bringing up Namor, I think that first of all, title like Wakanda Forever, um, it's going to be more about Wakanda uh, on the whole. And so if
Right.
that's like a Wakanda Atlantis war that's at the center of this, that would
Yep.
be insane. And
That would
I
be.
actually do remember us talking about that quite a while ago, but that would be
Yep.
such a cool um, conflict for this
Yep.
movie, I think, and such a cool way to introduce that character.
Yep. I completely agree with that as well. All right, let's move on to that's it kind of for the MCU movies, but let's move on to the Disney Plus shows that we think are coming out this year. Like I said, maybe not everything we mentioned is coming out this year because there have been more delays and pushback on some other things. So if they don't come out this year, well, that just means that they have more time to perfect it and work on it for 2023. So, it's not
Hmm.
all lost cause. But the first thing we're going to talk about, which is slotted to come out sometime summer of this year, is the Miss Marvel Disney Plus show. This was originally, I think, supposed to be the first Disney Plus show we got this year, but it kind of
Hmm.
got pushed back, I believe, for reshoots, which more than likely will probably tie into the Marvels film, which comes out in February of 2023. Um, Miss Marvel is probably one of the most well known and loved modern day characters from Marvel Comics, and so it's really
Yeah.
cool that we get to see her in the MCU finally, but also that she gets to have her own Disney Plus show, kind of like Kate Bishop does. To kind of we get to get introduced to this character, and then 2 or 3 episodes in, get to really dive deep into the character and fall in love with the character, kind of like Kate Bishop.
Right. Yeah, this has been one that I've been really excited for. Because also I really like the same way in Spider-Man, I like the perspective, like the younger perspective as well, because a lot of the movies about old people can get very self-serious and those sorts of things. Not really with Marvel, but I do
Right.
like that. I do like the younger perspective. I think it's pretty cool. So I'm excited about that. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be funny. I'm sure it's going to be fun. I think this is a cool character. I'm excited that
Yep.
she is being introduced at this point in time because I think that they could have waited um, a little bit longer to introduce her, but I think that with the advent of Disney Plus, it just made sense
Yep.
to go ahead and make a show about her. And definitely, she is like probably next to Miles Morales, like the biggest character to have been created. I want to say in the 2010s. I might have my dates wrong, but
I think so.
yeah, either the
I
late
think
2000s, 2010s.
yeah, some around that area definitely for sure is when she was
Right.
created.
So
But yeah,
it's just very interesting. I'm excited.
yeah, I completely agree. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to dive into this character specifically. Obviously, if you've played the Avengers PS4 game, she is one of the central characters in that game, which is really cool, and you kind of get to see a great perspective of her. I kind of mentioned this to you because I'm the theory guy for this episode because I've come up with a lot of theories apparently for this episode. But
Awesome.
um, one of the things about Kamala Khan is that she is from New Jersey,
Hmm.
and also the events of WandaVision took place in New Jersey. So I don't think they're going to do this, but the same way Monica Rambeau got her powers via the hex that Wanda put on Westview, I wouldn't be completely shocked if Kamala Khan was in Westview when the hex happened. And because of that, that's kind of how she got her powers. And maybe this is how we start to see the introduction of some mutants as well. Of like through these certain events or through these certain things that took place, that's how she got her powers, or that's how Monica got her powers. And so I wouldn't be completely shocked if that happened, but I think they're probably going to come up with a very different and more creative way to introduce her powers.
It would be funny for two out of the three central characters of the Marvels to have both gotten their powers in Westview, New Jersey.
And technically all three of them from, well, I guess not. I guess Captain Marvel came from um the Tesseract. No. She got her powers from absorbing the
the
explosion from
Kree,
the
the
Kree
Kree
ship
like
or whatever.
hyperdrive or
Something like that. Yeah, never mind. Yeah.
something.
But yeah, that would be
Yeah.
really funny for 2/3 of that movie to get their power in Westview, New Jersey. I think that would be very weird.
um, assuming that she is an Inhuman, I am interested to see how they tackle Inhumans
Yeah.
becoming directly canon. I know I talked about that a little bit last time, but
Yeah. No, I
yeah,
completely
I'm
agree.
I'm interested to see how Inhumans are reintroduced into the canon.
Yep. I completely agree. Um so kind of moving on from Miss Marvel to the next Disney Plus show that we're going to get, one that I'm really looking forward to. It's apparently supposed to be a comedy style of TV show as well, or Disney Plus show, and that is the She-Hulk Disney Plus show that is
Hmm.
already been confirmed to have Mark Ruffalo appearing as the Hulk in this movie in the show. So I'm really interested to see kind of the dynamic between those two. Kind of what do you expect from this show? Do you think we're going to get the infamous Charlie Cox appearance in this Disney Plus show as well? Because Kevin Feige said when he announced that Charlie Cox was going to be playing Daredevil in the MCU that he's going to be showing up anywhere and everywhere. So do you expect to see him there as well, or do you expect who kind of do you expect to see in the show um, as it goes along?
That would be cool. I've also heard Jessica Jones, which I think would also be very
That would
cool
be really
because
cool.
that character is great. And I would love for her to get a bit of redemption after the Defenders. That would be awesome. And after the last two seasons of her show, that would be great. But I'm really excited for She-Hulk. I think She-Hulk is a really funny character. And before Deadpool came around and stole the spotlight, she was like the original fourth wall breaking character.
Yeah.
So I think that that would be a fun element to have in this show. But she's just a character that makes sense. She's a big time Avenger, a long time Avenger. Um, Definitely one of Marvel's bigger characters, and
Yep.
so this is a show that makes a lot of sense, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
I think if Deadpool does not show up in Doctor Strange 2, I think it would be really funny if he showed up in this movie, in this Disney Plus show,
Yeah,
and
that
let
would
them
be
both just kind of break the fourth wall together. And I think that would be hilarious. And even if it's just a 30-second cameo by Ryan Reynolds in Deadpool as Deadpool, I think that's just kind of enough to get things started for his introduction into the
right,
MCU. Honestly, also I wouldn't be shocked if we get introduced to Amadeus Cho in this Disney Plus show as well.
right.
Obviously, we know his mom is out there somewhere after Age of Ultron, so he is definitely around. And also another member of the Young Avengers that cast is building very quickly and very fast. It seems like after every movie and Disney Plus show, there's like, oh hey, there's another Young Avenger that's going to be coming back at some point down the line. So I wouldn't be
Right.
shocked if he is added to that list as well, to kind of go forward in the MCU.
Yeah, yeah, that would be awesome. I think that he would make a lot of sense as part of the Young Avengers for sure.
Yep,
So
yep.
I would definitely be looking forward to that.
All right, so the next one we're going to talk about is one that I'm not entirely sure is coming out this year, but I don't really want to wait on talking about it because it's going to be a lot of fun to kind of dive in. Because this, I think, is where the fun of Disney Plus is really going to kick in, and that is with Secret Invasion.
Hmm.
It was originally slotted for 2022. I believe after delays, it may have gotten pushed back to 2023, but I don't know if that's been confirmed yet or not. So you can leave a comment down below and tell us how wrong we are. Or tweet at me and tell me that I got this wrong, and that's totally fine. I don't really care. But Secret Invasion, obviously the one of the more famous Marvel comic book storylines. I would argue probably right up there with Civil War, Secret Wars, kind of right up there with who is a
Infinity
scroll,
Gauntlet.
who is not a scroll, who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, that kind of thing.
Right.
So I'll get into my second question because my second question is more loaded and might will probably make you think a little bit more about it. But kind of what are you expecting from this show? Like, I honestly thought before Endgame, more than likely, this might be the next like Avengers level movie that we get is Secret Invasion. But now
Hmm.
it's been added to as a Disney Plus show, which I think is better for this kind of storyline to kind of
Yeah.
build suspense and week to week. Honestly, I think this might be another one division esque show where after each episode we're like, what is going to happen next week? Like,
Yeah.
what weird things are going to take place next week? So, kind of, what are you expecting to happen in this show? And also, don't mention who you think a scroll is yet because that is my next question. So hold off on that. But who do you
Okay.
like? What do you think? What are you expecting from this show?
Yeah, it would be really frustrating actually if this was the next big. I know we thought that back then, but if this was the next big like Infinity War level event, it would be kind of annoying because
Yeah,
like
I
Secret
completely
Invasion
agree.
as a concept, you can only go so far with that.
Before it
And then it's
becomes
like, oh, the
redundant and
big
annoying.
reveal is they were a scroll the whole time. I can't believe it. So I think it'll work in a show for sure. And I'm excited. I'm really excited for something that's Nick Fury led because it seems like he's the main character here.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think that is awesome. And Nick Fury has, deserved a leading role in a show or
Yes.
something for a very long time. He's one of the best characters they've ever done. So
Absolutely.
I'm really excited for that. I'm sure we'll get cameos here too because
Yep.
they can shapeshift and that just makes sense. So, yeah,
Yeah.
this is one that I'm excited for. We don't know a whole lot about it, but
Yeah. I love the fact that, like you said, it seems like Nick Fury's first, like where he's the center point of the show. And I
right,
think, like you said, it's a long time coming. Obviously, from the one very small snippet of video that we got from Secret Invasion is just him looking over his shoulder and he is a grizzled, aged, older version of Nick Fury with no eye patch. And I think that is really interesting, really cool. Obviously, we have already seen Nick Fury turn into a Skrull once from the end of Far From Home, so
Right.
maybe who knows that. But my next question is my loaded question, which I kind of already kind of brought up to you. Um, Out of every MCU character that we have, and I know that's a lot, but out of every MCU character so far, who do you think will be shown as a Skrull, and who do you think won't be? Or you don't have to say won't be, but who do you think will be introduced as a Skrull and has been a Skrull all along?
Interesting. That's a good question. I think that there are a lot that we can kind of rule out,
Mm-hmm.
especially ones that have been shown to have like insane powers. I think that anyone who is in a leading role is out as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and also people who aren't like relevant at all to Secret Invasion or to Scrolls or space or anything. We can rule out anyone in Ant-Man,
Right.
anyone in Doctor Strange because they're all too powerful and they have nothing to do with this. So I think anyone in Wakanda, I think we can roll that out. Um, so I think that really we talked about this a little bit last time. The number one suspect I think is Sharon Carter,
Yeah.
because she is a part of Shield and she has been allied with Nick Fury in the past, and she's been acting really weird lately,
Yep.
really suspicious lately. So
Yep.
I think that that would make a lot of sense. I'm trying to think of other characters that are kind of adjacent to Captain Marvel because this was built up to in the post-credit scene to Captain Marvel, and so I'm trying to think of other characters that are around
Well,
that aren't scrolls already.
it was also
Yeah.
built up in the post-credit scene of WandaVision as well, when Monica Rambeau went into the theater with a sword agent, I believe, and it
Hmm.
shapeshifted into obviously a scroll and said he wants to talk to you or whatever. So I think we all
Right.
thought that he might be Nick Fury. Maybe it's not Nick Fury. Maybe it's somebody else. Because obviously, from One Division, we know that there's some bad blood between Monica Rambeau and Captain Marvel over
Mhm.
something. So I think that might be really interesting to see what that is going to be as well. But I mean, if this comes out this year, this is coming out before the Marvels, which I think is
Mhm.
really interesting because I would have
Yeah.
thought that this might come out after the Marvels because I would figure that Captain Marvel has to play somewhat of a role in this Disney Plus show because of her first film obviously was very scroll heavy, but also like her interaction with Nick Fury, her interaction with all the scrolls. So I would figure that would take place after the Marvels film.
Yeah. Yeah. I would think so too. Um, However, I mean, I could also see events in Secret Invasion leading into the Marvels a little bit as well. And
Yeah,
at the very least, maybe just in the sense that, oh, the scroll threat is over, and so now we can worry about whatever the Marvels is about instead,
right.
and we don't have to be thinking about scrolls because that was something that was left kind of wide open after Captain Marvel. And if we don't shut that door
It's always going to
beforehand,
be
then
there.
that's going to be like, yeah, it's going to be lingering in everybody's heads through the whole
Yeah,
movie. So,
yeah, I completely agree. One name I'm
mhm.
going to throw at you though that I would not be shocked if they are a scroll, and I think one person might be Happy Hogan. I
Hmm.
think that would be really funny if he was a scroll because we think about like when we think about the scroll invasion and people being scrolls, we think of them automatically as bad guys.
Yeah.
And so I think he could be one of the ones that's like, no, I'm actually I'm a good scroll trying to help. I was just here and had to shapeshift to somebody, so I shapeshifted as John Favreau and named myself Happy Hogan. I think that would be really fun.
Yeah.
I think something like that would be really funny.
But where's the real Happy been the whole time?
My question, well, I mean, she
Did
can't
he
answer
die in
the
Iron Man
question.
3?
Maybe that would be really interesting. Actually,
Big brain.
that would be really interesting, and maybe that's why him and Aunt May broke up is because she found out he was a scroll. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not doing that anymore.
That would be a deal
Um,
breaker. Yes.
But honestly, one other one I'm going to throw out, and you kind of mentioned this film as you don't think people from this film are going to be one. I think it would be really interesting, but would throw a wrench in everything if Hank Pym was identified as a Skrull.
Hmm.
I think that would. I think it has a lot of potential to it.
Yeah.
Um, but it could possibly throw a wrench in everything that he's been in so far, and possibly Ant-Man 3 as well.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So part of it is what characters, like just thinking about it through the way that they're looking at it, probably is like what characters, by making them a scroll, would play a role in the story that's being
Right.
told. And so, of course, the next story for that character is going to be Ant-Man 3. And so it would be interesting, um, to see maybe there's a character that I'm not expecting that in their next movie it would actually turn out to play a major role that they
Right.
weren't who we thought they were,
Right.
um, for a long time. But in ruling out those characters, I'm trying to think of like who is like obvious, especially being relevant to this show,
Correct. Yeah.
in
Yep.
particular. So
Yep. No, I completely agree. But this is one where if it is coming out this year, it is very high up on my list of
yeah,
like what I'm excited for. If it comes out next year, it'll be on my list of. This will be super high on my list of excitement for that year as well. So,
yeah,
all right, so we're gonna kind of lump these last two together, kind of for time's sake, but also they kind of go together in a lot of ways. And that is I Am Groot, which is the Disney Plus show, which I don't know anything about. I have no idea what to expect.
yeah.
And then also as well the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, which depending on when it is shot or like when it is taking place, I would love if Chris Hemsworth was in this as well. I think that would be a lot of fun if he was in this as kind of as like a cameo or something. Um,
Hmm.
what do you expect? Because obviously we have seen holiday specials in the past. We're looking at you, Star Wars, for your
Yeah, VeggieTales.
VeggieTale specials as well. Yep, and
Yeah.
Star Wars because the Star Wars one was a beautiful masterpiece. What are
Yeah,
you expecting from
perfect.
this? Like, what are you expecting from this holiday special, as well as the I Am Groot Disney Plus show?
I actually would not be surprised by it being kind of a Star Wars holiday special spoof in a way, to where they recreate a lot of the like weird stuff from that special. I mean, I think taking Jefferson Starship music video and just putting Jefferson Starship in the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special makes way too much sense. If you haven't seen the Star Wars holiday special, you have no idea what I'm talking about. That's okay. Um, you should go watch it. It's a
You should.
masterpiece.
Yes, it is.
Um, but yeah, I think that'll be a lot of fun. I love that the Guardians are not self-serious characters and that you can
Yep.
just do goofy stuff like that with them. So I am super stoked to see where that goes. I mean, more Guardians is always good. Sucks that we have to wait so long for the third installment, but with them
I
being
know.
in two of the things that I'm looking forward to most this year, um, I think it'll tide me over
Yeah.
until then.
Yeah, because I
Mhm.
think Volume 3 is supposed to come out May of 2023.
Yeah.
So basically, like a year after Doctor Strange 2. So I think that's obviously going to be the big film next year. Will be Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and it seems like it's been so long since we've seen like a Guardians movie, and I think the second one came out
Almost 5 years ago now,
20.
2017.
Jeez, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like it's been a lot longer than that. So
Yeah.
I'm very much excited to see that movie, but it's going to be nice to see them in their own kind of thing here as well. So I'm really looking forward to that as well. As for the I Am Groot show, I don't know what it's going to be. I don't even know. I think it's
Who
animated. I don't
knows?
even know if it's animated or
Yeah.
not. Um, but I mean, it would be really interesting to see kind of the backstory of Groot and like where he comes from, his home planet, his home world, whatever that is. I think that would be really interesting.
Mhm.
Because obviously, I think Volume 3 is going to go very heavy into Rocket's backstory, and
Mhm.
Rocket's kind of upbringing, because I don't think he's going to survive that movie. So I think they're going to kind of show us where he's from then, and then probably kill him off at the end of it, which I hope I'm not right, but that's kind of the feeling that I have. Because I mean,
Man,
James
they
Gunn
better
has
not.
gone on record this week, I think, and saying that not all the characters are going to be there at the end of the movie. So
Oof.
yeah, I think
Sucks.
it's going to be a tearjerker. And I don't.
Hmm.
I think out of everybody, the one that would hurt the most, but also make the most sense, might be Rocket, and that is kind
Hmm.
of the saddest. I think Batista, Drax is also probably a goner, but
Hmm.
I don't know. Who knows?
I don't know. I don't see that. I don't see them having much of a reason to kill Drax. That'd be pretty surprising. They've already killed
Yeah,
Groot. They've already killed Gamora. So I think they're both safe. And so I think it's
yeah,
pretty much between Peter and Rocket.
yeah.
So that's
And
tough for sure.
I think Rocket is a lot more expensive, so they're probably gonna off him off.
That's true. Yeah, and he also
So
got an extra movie too. So,
he did, he did. So
with Endgame.
you
So,
yeah,
yeah,
so
sucks.
yeah. All right, I'm gonna throw two more at you that are not on our list, and they're not necessarily MCU properties, but we're gonna cover them really quick just because I want to get your
Awesome.
take on them and reaction to them. I'll start with the. Do you want the good one first? Or do you want the bad one first?
Surprise me.
All right, we'll go with the good one first because we'll end on a bad note. But obviously
Sweet.
this year I believe in November or December we are getting the second Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse film, part
Yeah.
one. So we are getting that movie coming out this year. Obviously, the first one was a fresh breath, a breath of fresh air. It
Hmm.
was one of the best, if not the best, Spider-Man movies ever.
Yes.
It is such an easy rewatch and a lot of fun, and the casting is amazing, and the animation is so different and beautiful. And so, kind of, what are you expecting from this one? Obviously, we know we're getting a two-part series for movie 2 and for movie 3. But kind of, what are you expecting to kind of take place in this film?
Oh, I have no idea. Honestly, I have no idea, but I'm so excited for it because the animation is just amazing. And the
Yeah,
storytelling in the first one was what really surprised people and kept people coming back to it. And so, as long as the sequel is written by Lord and Miller,
yeah, I think it is.
and okay, awesome. And as long as, they keep a lot of the same talent for the animation and for the soundtrack, I don't see any way that this could go wrong
Right.
whatsoever. The first one is just near flawless, so
Yeah,
I'm super
yeah.
excited for the second one. And it's not often that I get this excited for any like animated anything,
Hmm.
but this is just like something that's like on another level
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
completely agree. I will say two things real quick. One, the only way it will get screwed up is if Sony gets too involved with it.
Right.
And I'm gonna
Yeah,
leave that
Avi
like it
Arad.
is. I'm gonna leave it like it is. And then the second
Yeah.
one is I would not be shocked if in this one or in the next one we get a live action Spider-Man in these movies, because I think it has to
Hmm.
happen at some point. And I think Tom Holland would be great. I think Tom Holland would be a lot of fun, but I think Andrew Garfield, I think would absolutely kill it uh, in this universe, in this area, and kind of in this part of the Sonyverse. I think he would do a really great job as well, because I also think he is probably getting his Amazing Spider-Man 3 movie at some point. I really think they're going to bring that back because fans have been
That would
clamoring
be
for it,
crazy.
and there have been some reshoots for this next movie that we're going to talk about, which I'm sure you are just dying to talk about. It has been delayed for the eighth time into April, I believe, of this year, and that is the highly anticipated, I'm sure Oscar award winning, greatest superhero movie of all time, Morbius.
Ta-da!
What I know you're not expecting anything from this movie because your excitement for this movie was probably about the same as our excitement for the two Venom movies that we got. Um, but obviously, we know that there have been some tie-ins to the Sonyverse MCU, obviously with Spider-Man No Way Home. Um, some of the late reshoots though could be indicating that Andrew Garfield comes back as Spider-Man, and Morbius and Venom being in the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man universe. Um, it's interesting, but Morbius is not the character for me that will do anything. Um, so
Yeah.
kind of, what are your thoughts on this? Obviously, I know you're not probably really excited for it, but you know, do you expect anything like that to take place in this movie? I guess is what I'm asking.
Um, yes. Yes. I think that if they're doing reshoots, it has to be adding something substantial, kind of like universe wise to it.
Right.
I think that Andrew Garfield is a much better fit than Tom Holland. And that's part of my
Absolutely.
problem with Sony is that they don't think in the same way that Marvel does about the character of Spider-Man and about the character of Spider-Man that Marvel is doing right now and the track
Yep.
that that character is on. They're not thinking in the same way. And I think that the tone of Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man fits a lot better with Venom and with Morbius, even just as concepts
Yeah.
for villains to do. He fits better with that. And so I think that having him back as Spider-Man is a really cool prospect. And I
Mhm.
think that dodging a bullet with Tom Holland Tom Holland having to interact with Jared Leto Morbius
Yeah.
would be awesome. So
Yeah.
honestly, if that's actually what it is, and they're actually transplanting him into the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man universe and picking that up where it left off, I'm all for it.
Yep.
Honestly, I mean, I couldn't care less about Morbius, but I think that if we dodge that bullet and we get Andrew Garfield back as a result of that,
Yep.
then I'm totally on board.
Yeah, I honestly before No Way Home, I would have been like, really? Like that's I don't really care about that. But I think
Right.
what's so weird and what's really telling about the difference between Sony and the difference between Marvel Studios is Marvel Studios did more for Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man in an hour than Sony did for the entire character for both movies. Like
Yeah.
that's really telling.
And it's
Um,
also telling to how much potential that
yeah,
had from the very
yeah,
beginning. Because Andrew
absolutely,
Garfield is so good and he's so good for the role.
yeah.
Um,
I
so
honestly, I think because we've talked about this before. I think Tobey Maguire was a perfect Peter Parker,
yeah,
but not the best Spider-Man. I think Andrew Garfield was a really great Spider-Man, not the best Peter Parker. And to me, Tom Holland kind of fits both really well. But
right.
after No Way Home, like we got to see the emotion of Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker more than we ever did in his first two films, and it made me go, wow, Andrew Garfield could have been and still can be like one of the best, if not the best, Spider-Man portrayals, like live action portrayals ever. And so I would
Yeah.
love to see them add him into this. I would love to see him get his third movie, ditch everything else you did in the first two, make it its own thing. That is totally fine because the way they were heading with those movies is just I'm all for character change. We talked about it before, but the way they were going was honestly making zero sense at all.
Right.
And so kind of ditch everything. Obviously, with Morbius, we know that we are getting Vulture for some reason from the MCU in this film. So we
Dumb.
don't even know how all that ties in together. So there's a lot of questions still up in the air. But I would love if Morbius is the way that we get Andrew Garfield back as Spider-Man, then it's worth the 1,500 delays that we've gotten from this film.
And to be completely honest, if they're looking for a villain for that third Amazing Spider-Man film, I hate to say it, but Morbius is kind of a good fit
Yep.
because they haven't already alluded to him in that stupid
Yep.
scene where he walks past some guy walks past all the like Sinister Six gear
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, look what we're doing. Isn't this
Yeah.
cool? We're going to bring the Sinister Six. So they don't have to ruin any of those characters.
Right.
And I think Morbius, it like tonally is a good fit.
Yep.
So,
And
um,
even Tom Hardy's Venom, I think, is a good fit. Like I don't think Venom should be the
yeah,
villain, but I think Venom being in the movie or being with Andrew Garfield, like I enjoy Tom Hardy as a villain. Venom, his movies aren't that great, but I enjoy what I enjoy most about those is the interaction between Venom and between Eddie Brock. And so
yeah,
that aspect of the movie is really cool to see that. So I think if we got that plus Andrew Garfield plus, maybe Morbius is the perfect villain for the third Amazing Spider-Man movie. I think it all kind of fits together and could be really, really interesting and really, really cool if it is done the right way. Because I think this could go south really quick and could be a disaster really quick.
yes, it's
So
true. It could, but there is an exciting prospect buried
there is,
somewhere
there
underneath
is.
there that I think they could go for and do a really good job with.
Yep, absolutely.
And
All right,
Sony could
anything
make their
else?
first good live action Spider-Man movie in what is it, 6 to 18 years?
Spider-Man 2 came out in
2004.
wow,
18 years.
wow.
Wait. No, yeah, that's right. 18.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's 18. Yep. Wow. I can't believe that movie's 18
Cool.
years old. We went back and
Yeah.
watched it before No Way Home, and I was like, this is like you. There's a whole episode on me and the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies because I still get a lot of flack from a lot of people about it, but like I wasn't a huge fan of the Sam Raimi films, but I
Yeah.
going back and watching it, I'm like, they're campy, they're very comic book heavy, and I can see why they're really a lot of fun. And like Spider-Man 2 kind of Spider-Man 1 doesn't hold up as well. Going back and
It's true.
rewatching it,
Yeah.
but Spider-Man 2 is like a really good comic book movie, even for its time. Even if it came out today, I still think it would be a really good comic book movie. So I give
Yes.
them props for that. But yeah, I think the way things are heading right now is so different and so weird, not just for Marvel Studios but also for Sony, that it could be a lot of fun to see where everything is going. And so kind of just sitting back and watching everything take place. I mean, like I said, the Sony stuff could go south really fast and really quick, and next week we're on here saying,
Yes.
"Wow, that was a stupid idea." But you never know. You never know.
Yeah. Yeah, we could be surprised in a good
We
way
could be.
by
We
Sony.
could be. Yeah,
Yeah.
that hasn't happened since the first Spider-Verse movie, I guess.
Yes, it's true.
So, all right. Anything else you want to add about any of the other stuff that we've talked about, or just kind of the outlook on the MCU as a whole from in 2022 before we get to our first property coming out March 30th?
Not a whole lot. This is one of the most exciting lineups that we've had in a really long time. I think, for me personally, especially,
Yeah.
I wouldn't really know where to start. I mean, I think Thor would be on top, but beyond that, I really wouldn't know where to go with ranking my excitement for each of these, just because all of them are super exciting in
Yeah.
their own way. So I'm just really, I think it's really cool that we have these shows coming out on Disney Plus now to kind of supplement the movies. And this is going to be the first year where that is happening in like a really big way.
Yeah.
I want to say, because, WandaVision came out in 2020. That was the first one. And then we got a few last year, which are kind of, things are panning out with those now. Um, and they're starting to sort of take effect. And then
Right.
next year, we're going to be going in some like wild sort of directions. Now we're going to be introducing characters through their Disney Plus shows,
Yeah.
which we have not done yet, unless I'm wrong. I don't think I'm wrong.
I mean, other than Kate Bishop and
Right. Yeah.
I guess you could say Kang in a way,
hmm
but
Yeah,
we
but
haven't really.
introducing characters as like the leads
Yeah.
of those shows.
Yeah.
And so that'll be a new thing that we're doing this year that I'm really excited for. So
Yep, absolutely.
it'll be a
I
fun ride.
completely agree. I think for me personally, I think Doctor Strange might be my number one most
Hmm.
anticipated for this year, just because of how high we ended on Spider-Man No Way Home, and kind of heading into how that one kind of directly affects this one. I'm really looking forward to, as well as kind of the after effect of WandaVision. Um, because I've gone back and watched WandaVision this past week, and I completely forgot that White Vision is still out there somewhere, so he could show up at any moment, at any time. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked if Paul Bettany was not in Doctor Strange too. But honestly, like I think Moon Knight is my number one most anticipated Disney Plus show this year. We've been asking
Yeah.
for it for 2 or 3 years now. It's finally happening. It looks like it's going to be crazy and gritty and a lot of fun. So I'm really looking forward to that as well. I think that's those two are the ones that I'm like, give it to me now, and they're the first two. So we're starting off really high for the MCU, and it's going to be
There
a
you
lot of fun
go.
to see where we go from there. So.
Yeah. I'm excited.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Dorks Next Door. Thank you guys so much for listening to this hour-long podcast as we are kind of previewing the entire MCU in 2022. Leave a comment down below and let us know what you are most looking forward to coming out this year, whether it's a Disney Plus show or movie. Kind of let us know what you are looking forward to the most in those films or the TV show as well. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, share this video with your friends. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Dorks Next Door. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy_PBWP. You can listen to our audio versions of the podcast on Spotify, Anchor, Google Play, Apple Music, or Apple Podcast. Basically, anywhere you find your podcast, you can find the Dorks Next Door there as well. We might be back next week. We might not be. I'm not entirely sure yet. So we will definitely be working on that out. And we will definitely be sending out a tweet, or we'll be sending out something letting you know for sure when we are coming back for next week, if we are coming back next week or not. We will be back in a couple weeks to definitely review the book of Boba Fett, if we can still call it the book of Boba Fett, even though he's not in it for a majority of the show. We'll definitely come back to talk about all things dealing with that, and as well as Moon Knight when it comes around. So there's a lot of crazy stuff. There's a lot going on right now, but we are definitely here to deliver it all and talk about it all. If there's anything that you want us to talk about that we haven't talked about yet, make sure you comment down below, and we will definitely hit that and talk about that next week or in a couple weeks as well. So definitely want to mention that and put that in there as well. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in and listening to us. For Jason, my name is Andy York, and we will catch you guys in the next episode.